your aptitudes seem to be a mixture of creative and business instincts. Do you feel that you have a preference for one or the other, or do you feel that it's a happy marriage?
I think I'm a poor businessman in many ways. I think that, and I think that one of the problems I had is I never had any business training. But when I was younger, I was incredibly enthusiastic, and I was a good salesman. So I would sit across the table from someone in a film commission or a distributor or something with my idea, so committed, so focused, doing the pitch like the used car salesman, the Christian zealot, whatever, you know, the communist, you know, speaking his mind. But and they look at me, and I always thought what I've got them to say is, but what if he's right? What if this film's going to work and I'm the guy that knocked it back? And I'd like to look them in the eye and say, but, you know, what if I'm right? What if this is going to be a hit? You want to be the guy that knocked us back? And so, I mean, on occasions we'd walk out with lots of money. And I would say where I am responsible in business is the making of the films. I've learnt the craft. We're not greedy. We try to put the money people give us up on the screen. But also, if something isn't good in a film, I'd go back and reshoot it rather than turn in a film that I thought wasn't good enough. And I'd go back and fight with the investors to put more money in. I mean, Rabbit Proof Fence is a very good example. I did the finance for that film. And when we finished the film, Philip and Jeremy Thomas and I looked at it, and we felt that it was a good film, but it lacked the grandeur of the girl's journey, and we felt that the ending needed stronger emotion. And there was another scene we weren't particularly happy with as well. And so I went out and raised a further $2 million, and it was almost a year later we were still finishing that film, and we shot 3 lots of pickups, including all those wonderful aerials, and we had digitised rabbit-proof fences put in in the desert, and helicopters in Western Australia going up to great heights, and little girls who are doubles right out there. And of course that gave the film its perspective and its grandeur, and that really helped with the film. So I think that being responsible isn't bringing a film in on budget, but it's trying to deliver a good product to someone. So in that way, I have some business acumen, but in other ways, I'm not skilled as a businessman, and I think it's always been a drawback.
But you raised that extra $2 million through what sort of sources?
Well, we had the FFC and also the pay television network who were involved in the finance of the film, and they could see that we had an interesting product. And when they're in that deep and you've got good people, and also I must say my friend and partner Jeremy Thomas in the film, he was making incredibly good sales on the film off their show reel to very good territories. Like he racked up I think the best money he ever got for Germany for an Australian film as a pre-sale in Japan. And I was saying to the investors, if we're getting that sort of money, we've got to deliver a good product. It's so important. And so put some more money in, because then we'll keep going. And of course the film has been financially a great success.
Can you say how much of a success?
Well, everyone's made their money back and everyone's getting profit shares,
right, and
continuing to get them. And I think, you know, most recently, I think something like $1 million came from just one sale in the UK. Profit, yeah.
David, if you had the option to learn something you know now,
yeah,
that you knew at the beginning, what are some of those things that you learned the hard way that you wish you had known before?
Well, I suppose one of the things that I regret about my career is that with Newsfront, Philip was the most wonderful collaborator, because he's a big, strong, intelligent, confident man. You could throw any idea at him. You never felt that you had to button your lip, because if you threw a good idea at him, he'd take it on board. If he didn't like it, he'd tell you so. So I was spoilt in that the producer-director relationship with Philip was a wonderful collaboration, and I've had that with a number of other people. It's been great fun. But suddenly, at quite a young age, I was the hottest producer around with the most original product, so I became a producer. And you know, producers are tarred with a certain brush of crassness, probably which I excel in. But when I got the opportunity to direct, which I did through doing miniseries and then directed some features and telly movies, because I had a lot of experience, it meant that I couldn't attract a producer. I had some very good line producers that worked with me, but it was my product. I was the producer-director. And I look at some of those films, which I think aren't bad films, but I think it would have been an enormous benefit to me if I'd had a strong producing partner when I was a director who actually stood up to me and questioned what I was doing, because I never had that. I never had the role that I played with Philip for me as a director. And I think that I made a lot of decisions on my own because I was, or, you know, omnipotent, or whatever the word is. And I think that that's something that I wished I'd had in my career, was a really strong partner.
Well, what are you have?
Did that answer the question?
It did answer the question.
Probably obliquely. But.
Obliquely, but I mean, I'm sure you would have liked to have known something specific.
I think something that I didn't understand was how finance works. So how merchant banks work, how capital works, all those sort of things. I understood how to get industry-oriented people in. You know, in England, for example, I've done films with the BBC, Channel 4, ITV, you know, lots and lots of companies in England. So getting an English partner who's in the business and Australian partners in the business, good at that. And I've attracted some independent capital. But I think understanding, you mentioned business plan, but having that business plan knowledge at a certain point in my career might have been a great advantage, I think. I never went to film school, but I learnt filmmaking by making films, which was kind of interesting. So I think that anybody in our business, the more you can learn the editing room, basic camera work, those sort of things are extremely important. How, you know, construction of a script, acting. I did acting classes. That was incredibly instructive, to go and do a method acting course. So I think that thing of constantly learning is really important. And I think one of the problems that happens is that you're in Australia and you go overseas for short periods of time, but sometimes it's very hard to base yourself in another country for, say, 2 years and really learn about that country. So I've been based in Australia but do lots of trips, maybe for 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 2 months, 3 months. But I think it would have benefited me greatly to go overseas and learn in other countries and also just learn a bit more about the way that international finance works.